they put the wine in the barrels, and this is where the wine stays for a while. And then they always have a lot of storage building. They need storage building. So that's the main thing that we do. We also have maybe 20% in the private sector. I say cottages, but they are more like hotels. So there's a lot of tourism around us. So we build places for them. And we have another thing that we do that we like very much, which are the village senior. So it's like a village for old people. So it's between a retirement home and active people. So it's a very interesting set of projects. And maybe since 2 or 3 years, we're starting to go into the public sector. It's a sector where we didn't want to go before because we were very interested in being very close to our clients and very close to the people that build. And maybe in the public sector, it's a bit harder. Now that we have an experience, we're now 12 years old. We're starting to go more into this. So we have a kindergarten at the moment that we're building in Chalon-sur-Saône, with another practice, which is called Sénéchal Leclerc. And it's the first project where we take everything that we do, that we've experienced for 10, 12 years, and we put it into public sector and try to widen up to more people. The second thing that we are starting to do for the 3 or 4 years are feasibility studies. This is a result. This is something that we've been asked to do after all of precedent buildings. It's studies for areas that are developing and are trying to move into more sustainable constructions. And we are the architect consultant and on trying to guide them towards a construction which is more with natural materials and sustainability. And I'm talking about this because I'll have a few slides at the end where it's quite important. So as I said, we're a team of 8 people. The architects that are building with us, we only have architects in the practice. They're all trained architects in France usually. And the reason we do that is because in our practice, we think that it takes time to be an architect. So we train them for 3, 4, 5 years, and after 5 years, they only start on site. They have so much to learn that we want them to be here for a long time. That's part of also the sustainability philosophy that we have. We think that construction has to take its time. It's not a very rapid process, and we think it's when you're training, it has to take that into account. Those are the names of our people. So I'm going to explain a concept that guides our architecture. We came up with this name, Ecodynamic, which is a French name. I think it would work in English. It's eco, so for sustainability. We've never done anything else than sustainable building. We've been trained in England. We haven't been trained in school, so that's why I'm very happy to do this conference. We've spent 6 years in schools and we've never been trained in everything sustainable. And it's something that we had to learn while we were working. So eco is for the sustainability part, and then dynamic is it's in French, it means to be with. It means that what's most important for us is to work with people and with the earth. It means you can't do everything alone. You have to be with something. It's a partnership, and you have to think of the other. And that has to guide the way you construct and the way you think the project. So that's our main word. Also in winemaking, being dynamic means to interact with the surrounding. As I said, it's also the sky, the winemaker, the earth, the client, and the practice. With the winemakers, what's interesting with them, and I'm gonna talk a lot about winemakers because it's the main thing we do. But they work with the sky, with the rain. They have to take care of the earth. They have to grow plant. They know how to take the time, which means that we have an opportunity with them to take the time and make buildings that will last a long time. It's very important. I'm going to read this DNA statement. just to tell you what guides us every day. Our everyday struggle is to create an architecture which is the most passive as possible. So passive means we want to use as less energy as possible. Made of integral and non-transformed natural material. That's also very important. It means non-processed materials. Nowadays, when you build, you are you're assembling pieces which are made usually from an industry, and that actually uses a lot of energy. So we're trying to use, we call in France, we say brut, which means raw materials. We work with the enormous know-how of the Regis worker. We are architects. We're not the one building with our hands. That is made by others. So it means we have to listen to them. They have a lot of knowledge. They are the one that instructed us how to build, and they are the one we have to listen to. We're just people that put things together. We're not the one building, so we have to take into account their know-how. Also, it's an extraordinary pleasure to work and to learn every day. We've been working for 12 years and we still learn every day how to put things together. Spatial aesthetics, it means that it's not because you're trying to be sustainable and you're trying to do things the right way that you don't have to think about the architecture and space. It's our training, this is what we learn, and we know that there are qualities, there are essential living qualities in spatial aesthetics, so that's very important for us. Structural and technical innovations, that's the strive to always go forward. Innovation doesn't mean new always, it also means that you can take old techniques and bring them back to the forefront of architecture and construction. And that's what we do most. But you have to challenge yourself. We think that every construction has to have something new or innovative, because this is how you go forward, and that is how you make the world a better place. And finally, with sustainable means of energy production, it means that we are architects, we construct, we make space, but we also have to think about what makes the spaces places where you can live. So it means heating, but also cold and everything that you need beside the construction. This is rather new, and I will insist on this. You need to think about those things because they transform the way space is lived. So just to tell you, you're going to see a few slides which are in French and English. It's just that I didn't have time to translate. But just to tell you where we come from, there's two persons that have guided our practice. The first one is Anne-Claude Lefebvre, which is the mother of Marine, who's a winemaker in Puligny-Rocher. She has a winemaking family. And what she did in 1992 is that she converted the whole of the winery into biodynamics, which means a more sustainable way of growing wines, which are based with the sky, the stars, and the moon. And she was one of the first to do this in 1992 in France, but there were maybe 2 or 3 winemakers doing it. She made it here. She had a very, very strong belief. She never let it go, and she was one of the pioneers to do this. And what we are trying to do is take her energy and what she set up and put it into the architecture, into another field. It's a very logical things to do when you're a farmer or a winemaker, because you're thinking about your planting, you're thinking about doing it right, but also doing it right for your soil. It's less evident when you're doing architecture, but it's rather translated. The other person, which is very important and was part of our training, is Bill Dunster. So we worked for him in London for 3 years. That was after our training in Paris, and he had a way of telling us to believe in what we do and believe in what we want to build. He has no boundaries. He really went forward. It was a pioneer in sustainable architecture. It was more into how to produce energy and how to heat up a building and ventilate a building. So it was more about the technical aspects of it. But we stemmed from it. We stemmed from this willpower. So those are the fundamentals. So I'm going to speak about the projects that represents the best what we do, which is a project that we did. It's maybe our fourth project, so it's a very early project for us. We were very naive when we did it, so we had no boundaries. We went for it. It's called La Cave de l'œuf, which means the egg-shaped cellar. It's a overground cellar, which means it's not digged in the ground, it's above the ground, but still has to house wine and grow wine for about 1.5 years in barrels. There were two objectives that we set ourselves for this cellar. It had to be passive and work in bioclimatic ways. Passive means we didn't want to have any production of cold inside, and for it to work. And also we wanted to work with the surrounding for it to work. Okay, so it's a cellar which is very small. It's on a very small site in Puligny-Montrachet. So Puligny-Montrachet is in the south of the region I showed you earlier in the strip. They produce great wines, very, very famous wines. And this was for quite a famous winemaker. It's interesting because we wanted to be innovative with this project, but also the client. And it's also very important for them to be on board. I mean, if your client is not on board, it's very difficult to do anything. You can have willpower, it's not going to happen. You need your client. So a very small site, maybe it's 200 square meters. It was a small garden, and we had to install a cellar for this winemaker. So what we decided is to go with an egg-shaped vault, which had a lot of qualities to it. The first quality is that it was drawn on the Tonnerre drawing, which is a drawing which is based on the golden number. We were very interested in these proportions. There are proportions that have a lot of qualities. They have structural qualities. This egg-shaped vault stands in itself. It doesn't need anything in between. And that's because of the Tonnerre. There's also a sort of intuition that this kind of shape will be a perfect shape to grow, we call it élevé, grow wine, because it has a relationship to the sky and the ground. It puts them together and assemble them in the middle of the gag. So I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you get the sky, the ground, and everything happens here. This is the center, and this is where you grow. It means that the energy from the sky and from the ground converges within the cellar. So the drawings is very, very simple. We took this vault, we just extended it, and that was it, finished. To build this vault, we used 4 raw materials. It means that nothing in the cellar has been is from an industry. Everything has been made on site. Everything has been picked locally, and it's been transformed by the hand of the man to build the cellar. So we have wood. The wood comes from around here. We have a lot of forest in the Morvan, which is a region next to where we live. A straw bale, as I said, winemaker are also farmers, so they have a tradition of growing wheat, and the straw we used is from a biodynamic farm, which is maybe 10 kilometers away from Puligny. Stone, The very interesting thing about wine regions is that there are very often stone regions. So for us, we're in a way very, very lucky because vines grow on soil that are made from sorry, limestone. So we can use it. It's strong enough to be used in the construction. And then the last material we use is earth, and that's also we use the earth from around the vineyards to build. So those are the four materials. Very, very simple. And with this, you can build a straw bale, and a bit of intelligence, you can build a straw bale cellar. So this is the straw. I'm in the middle. This is the straw that we used to build the cellar. We went and picked it up 10 kilometers away. It was in round bales, as you can see, which is not very practical to build. We took our time to find the right farmer because the client wanted to be a biodynamic crop. So we took about maybe 6 months to find it, but then we found it. And this is the whole of straw bale that is in the cellar. When you work with natural material, there's something that you have to be careful of. Natural material, there are material that sucks up the environment. So it's very simple. If you grow straw, you know that everything which is in the soil is going to be in the straw. So if you have a polluted straw, it means that it's going to pollute your cellar. Wine is a very, very, very sensitive liquid material. So it means it absorbs everything which is around, even if it's in a barrel, even if it's in a bottle, it's going to absorb everything. So if the environment in which it is in is polluted, it's going to have a taste which is not what you want it to be. And because we're working with very, very famous white wine growers, they are very, very sensitive about the taste of their wine. So we have to be very careful. So we had to lab test every material. Lab test means you send every material, so a little sample of every materials, and you test it to see if there's any TCA or TCB. This is a bit technical, but they're very small molecules that can go into the wine and do what we say a good bouchon, which ruins the taste of wine. So, and it's especially important with natural material. When you work with normal, let's say conventional materials like concrete or foam, they're inert. It means they're dead materials. It means that they don't absorb what's around them, which is maybe equating sometimes. But material, they will absorb. So you have to be very, very careful how you put it in, when you put it in, where you store it, and how you build it. So those are just straw bale. We're in the field, and because they were in round straw bale, we had to undo it and restock it into square bales, which is the more traditional way to do bales. They've changed it in the 1970s when we started to do more and more wheat to have a bigger storage. So we had to find old machines and to recondition them in straw bale like this. It took a while, but it was quite fun. We did that in the summer, so that the straw bale was quite dry, and so we could use it. Along with the use of natural materials, there's something we wanted to do, and that has to do with the fact that we have to be very careful of the material we put in this construction, is that we didn't want to have any glue. It would have been very easy to use glue beams to do those bolts, but there has been some problem with the glue in the 1970s and 80s because of the components that they use, and for the same reason as explained before. So all the arches are built in an old method, that were used in maybe the beginning of the century, which is a nailed vault. Means you can see there's maybe 3 or 4 layers of planks. So it's pine wood planks. And they've been just very simply nailed together to do the vaults. Those are very simple techniques. They are within our will to use raw materials, and they're very efficient. So what happens is you take those beams and you make, I call them tanks, and they're tanks where you put the insulation, and the insulation is the straw bale. The reason why we use straw bale in this building is that they're very efficient for insulation. They're very thick, in between 47 and 53 centimeters. And it means that the cellar is going to be over insulated. It means that no heat is going to go outside, but also no cold, no freshness. So those are the tanks being made in prefabrications in small sections, and they're going to be assembled, transported like this, and assembled on site. So this is the preparation of the site. One of the main principle of the cellar is that it's connected to the earth. So there's no insulation. There's nothing in between the earth and the cellar. And as you can see, there's 2 or 3 alleys. Those are alleys for the barrels, but where the gravels are, there's nothing. There's no insulation. So we add a bit of concrete. The concrete that we use is a low carbon concrete. Also, we're very lucky over here. They made the concrete the limestone, and there's a few people that research and are trying to use as less cement as possible in the concrete. So this concrete is a low carbon concrete. It was experimental at the time. Now it's actually the law, but 7 years ago, the low carbon was experimental, and this was one of the first buildings using it. The other thing that we're using is, you can see on the side, or cork insulation surrounding the base of the building. It's also another material that we use a lot for insulation within the ground, because it replaces foam, so petrol-based material that use a lot of energy. So this cork insulation comes from Portugal. It comes from a bit far, but less far than, let's say, the other side of Earth. And it's quite efficient. It doesn't suffer humidity. So this is the base on which we've put the arches. So you can see there are sections. We're putting them on the base. We can see the straw bale sticking out. Because it's a natural material, we have to check it during the construction period to check if it's not humid, if it's the right compression, and that it would stay like this for the duration of the building. That's also something you have to be very careful when you use material, natural material. You have to check that it's not going to rot. We always think that a building made with natural material is going to be sustainable. That's not true if the way you put it together is not the right way. There's a very strong chance with natural materials that it will rot if you don't take care of it. If you do it properly, it's wonderful. It's going to last for hundreds of years, but you have to respect some rules. So that's the arches being built, and then on top of it, we've put this wooden layer. This wooden layer, which is going to be the support for our external layering. So this is the guy checking the straw. Once it's checked with the lab, and it's checked also for compression and humidity. We can close it up and go to the next phase. So we're building a cellar. A cellar is very different from what architects do usually. Architects usually use they're making building to be heated. This is a building which is supposed to be cold. And the building that we build normally are with a very low percentage of humidity. And this is going to be a building with a very high percentage of humidity. So we have to protect the straw bale, which is the reason why you have this blue breather membrane, which is as an SD of 150 meters if you want to know the technicality. It means it's a very closed breather membrane. It doesn't let the vapor go through very easily. This was another challenge for this project because we usually breather membrane that are so close, they use a lot of foil. But what we didn't want to do is to build this egg and then have a foil layer on top of it, because then, or you know how Faraday cages work, if you have a foil cage, then our whole story of energy converging to the center is not going to work anymore. So we had to find this breather membrane that we had to go to Germany to find. So it's quite important. The other part of the strategy of this cellar is the use of compressed earth bricks. The reason why we have those bricks are, it's not decorative, it's not structural, but it's solely for thermal mass. We have insulated the cellar very well, so it means the cold or the heat doesn't go out. But what we want to do is to retain it inside the cellar. And this is what the bricks are going to do. They're going to suck up the heat or the freshness, depending on the weather outside, and then going to restitute it to the cellar when it needs it. That's being done also with the wine inside. There's a few wine barrels inside this cellar, and you know as well as me as water is probably the best thermal mass that exists. So we had to complement it with those bricks so that the cellar is stable all year long. For the little story, it's been working for 8 years now, and the cellar is so stable. The winemaker is actually, they're a bit surprised because their other cellar are not as stable as this one. So they always have to adjust another cellar, and this one they don't have to adjust it. And it actually, it's a bit troubling for them because they don't know, it's not their, they're not used to it. So that's quite strange. It's too efficient in a way. The little holes you see underneath is for the air to go through and travel around the vault. What happens is that you know how the hot air goes up, and what we need to do is this blue layer, which is the breather membrane, has to breathe, and what we want is a layer of air that dries it up. That happens very well in this cellar because of this vault, the air naturally goes up and down. So if you allow for a layer to do this, you're going to be dry on it all the time and protect your straw bale. Yeah. Okay. So what you see are reed panels from Camargue, which is a region in the south of France that specializes in reeds. Those are going to be the support of the earth render for the finishing of the cellar. Those were a challenge to find as well, because reed is probably the plant that sucks up the most the pollution. So we had to refuse maybe 2 or 3 batch. Every batch was tested on site. So the reed panel goes onto a wood structure, which is in front of the breather membrane, and will be the support for the earth render. The earth render was there's two reasons why it's here. As I say, it's a very humid places, so you have to regulate the humidity, and the earth render is probably the best material to do this because it sucks up the humidity and then brings it back when it's dry. That happens also in the compressed brick, but a bit less. It's the earth render which is probably the most efficient. You can see the little ventilation on top of it. Those are the little ventilation that allows the air to go down. So they go up by the brick underneath and then down at the top of the walls. So this is the guy doing it. It took them about 6 months to do the whole thing, which is quite a long time. There's just two of them. What he's doing at the moment is putting the base layer of the render, which is about maybe 3 or 4 centimeters thick. And he's going to apply then the finish on top of it. And the guy that does it is this guy, Ludovic Mej. We've been working with him for a long time. So he's a guy from here. And what he does at the moment is he's taking some clay from the site, which is just near the egg cellar, and he's going to formulate the render. It's just for the finishing because otherwise it will take too much clay. And you can see we did some experiments on the color. Those are the color that we can get with the clay on site in Puligny, and then we chose it with the client. It's very, very interesting, because it means that you're taking the material from the place directly into your building. So it can't be more local. So the outside cladding is made of wooden board that also comes from the forest. You can see the forest in the background. So it's not that forest, but it's a bit further away. And it's a painted cladding. It's painted with a paint that we formulate ourselves, that we make ourselves. Well, it's the carpenter that makes it. There's a tradition in Burgundy. You would think that it's a Norwegian thing to do, but in Burgundy as well, we have, and I'm sure over in Turkey we have the same. There's a tradition of painting wood to protect it, and they had actually recipes for this paint, which are very, very easy to do. And this is the carpenter doing it. So Marion is on site checking it. The paint it's not much. It's just flour, linseed oil, soap from Marseille, and then to have the color, it's the red ochre. What's great about this painting is that you don't have to. You paint it once, and it lasts about 10 years, and you only repaint it 2 years afterwards. It's a very thick paint, so it's very, very efficient. All of our buildings are now cladded with boards that are painted on site. It's the best protection. Just to summarize a bit the way this egg-shaped cellar is done. So you have the outside layer, which is the board, the wood cladding. Then you have an air layer. Then you have a very, very strong, membrane, rain membrane, so that there's no humidity that goes into the tanks. That's very, very important. Then you have the straw bale, the air layer that I talked about, and then the earth render. You can see this a bit. It's in French, but that's it. So it's 13 layer. So it means that I'm saying it's very simple. The materials that we're using are very simple, but actually and that's very important. The way you put them together and the order in which you put the materials together are very important. Every layer has an importance, has its task, and they have to be at the right place. When you deal with natural material, that's the constraint which you are in. And there you go. That's the cellar. That's the way it is now. It's been like this for 8 years. It had wine for 8 years. They the little story is that they've made comparison into wine that's been made in this cellar and wine that same wine that's been made in other cellars, and there's a huge difference in taste. Uh, some find it better, some find it not better, but it's very different. And what that tells you it's that the space impacts what's made in it, which means that us as architects, we have to think about that. We have to think that what we're creating, which for human or for something else, has an impact. Space, volume, etc. We could have done a cellar which was, smaller, not as high. Maybe there would have been a bit of economy, like we would save a bit of money. But what it gives us in return is very interesting. It makes the wine better. There you go. That's the egg cellar with the guys working in it. And that's the outside. So it's a very small project, but it's rather iconic. There's a lot of work put in this. This is just a small slide to talk about the client that we have. Every client, they're the base of our work. There are the guys that push us, and there are the guys that make it possible. We're just a tool. So Domaine du Jacques, we're doing carbon dioxide capture, which is very interesting. We're building new straw bale wineries a bit everywhere in Burgundy. As I said, as I said, there's what we're trying to do now is to put all that I've said in that we're experimenting in winemaking and constructions and farmer construction into more public-based projects. We're building a kindergarten in Chalon-sur-Saône, and our thinking was that why are we taking so much pain in building constructions for wines and testing every materials and not doing it for kindergarten? So what we did is that in the competition that we won, we wrote it down that every material should be tested, so that all the kids that are in the building don't smell or don't breathe materials that are not good for them. What that did very interestingly is that when we started the studies in this kindergarten, there was a problem in Chalon-sur-Saône with other buildings where there was a smell and people had headaches. You know the smells when you come in and it smells a bit like a supermarket. And people had headaches and kids were sick and they didn't know what it was. And what we said is that maybe it's the materials that you used or the way you put the materials together. So we sent our lab to test the materials. And they actually found a glue that was still emanating, was still breathing chemicals. And they've replaced it. It now works. And our belief and our will is that they will do this for every kindergarten. So we're doing it on this one. This is a straw bale, also a straw bale kindergarten in Chalon-sur-Saône. Hopefully I'll be able to talk about it next year when it's built, if you invite me again. But it's a very interesting project. Okay, a bit of fun now. We like to have fun in our project, so it sounds very serious what I just told you, but we like to have a bit of fun. This is a small cabin that we did in a small building, 50 meters square, in Gevrey-Chambertin. It's a small hostel where you can stay for a night, maybe a week. And we took the concept of oiseau. So oiseau is a bird in French. an exotic bird in a swimming pool. It was an old internal swimming pool that was too humid, it didn't work, so we emptied it and we put a cabin into it. What's interesting also in the materials that we use is so we only used wood. We made a big tower in wood that come from just near us. And the interesting thing is the tiles that you see. So those tiles were handmade. This is me sorting them out. Handmade in a factory that used to do plate around this, and it used to be a huge factory that made loads of plates. But not anymore. They had a very small activity, and we went to see them and we said, "Do you want to make tiles for us?" And we made those tiles for this project. Very local. It's plaster. And now the activity starts again because they're doing other small decorative object like this. So just to talk about maybe the aesthetic approach to earth render. Those are two sort of luxury rooms that we did in a hotel. And the challenge was, okay, it's easy to control if you're building a new building because you're designing everything. But if you work with something existing, you have to respect it. And we have a lot of stone houses in Burgundy. And there's a huge challenge of how do you insulate. Those buildings weren't made to be insulated. They were made to be just a stone wall. And you had a wood fire and that was it. But with the comfort that we're used to now, we have to insulate. With the challenges of using less energy, we have to insulate. So this was one of the challenges that we did maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And what we did, we insulated with actually with an earth render to try and have both the insulation and the render inside. I don't know if you can see. Oh, yeah. So you can see this earth render on the floor. All the wooden panels are made of oak. We've doubled all the windows so that we use less energy. And just to go back on the insulation, when you use earth render, what it does is that it allows for the vapor to go from the inside to the outside. Meaning that you're not enclosing any water or anything into the walls, which means it doesn't rot. So that's a technique we're using a lot. We had a bit of fun. We made some. We designed everything, and we made the table out of plaster with a local guy. I'm showing you this because it means that there's a lot of people that know how to do things, and you just have to use them to do beautiful things. This is another project. It's called Les Thermes. So they're a bathhouse that we made from an old garage in Chambertin. What we did is that we wanted to use the limestone that we found that I talked about a bit earlier. We wanted to use this the stone, but not as a cladding. So all the stone that you see are actually solid stone. They're a big chunk of stones put on top of each other, and that's it. That's all there is in this building. The inspiration for this building are the impluvium that you used to have in the Roman times. So you have the impluvium. You can see them with the bronze on top, and then you have the compluvium underneath. It means that you have the rain that go through, and you have the atmosphere when you're taking the hot bath, which is the egg shape bath that you see at the back. The interesting thing about this project is that all the materials are raw, but kind of luxury. So you have the stone, you have the bronze, you have the wood, but there's nothing has been industrialized in this building, and it gives you a sense of aesthetic for the building. So this is inside where you take your bath. We used earth render for all the walls. Chestnut tree. We use a lot of chestnut because it's a wood that scares the spiders away, as we say in French, and so it's very efficient. There you go. I've got time here. Okay. So that's an interesting project. This is a little cabin which is hanged in a tree for two persons. And what we did here is a bit of a, in French it's called biomimetism, maybe, I don't know. So what we do, it's a pine cone from a pine tree. And you know how pine cone in a pine tree, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, it expands with the heat. It means when it's cold, it's all closed up, and when it's warm, it opens up. And we wanted to have the same effect on this cabin. So what we did is that we designed this object, which is made of a geodesic structure made of oak tree, with a bit of a metals for the structural bit to hang it up. And then we put a tent over it. And then we had those wings made that opens up with the heat and closes up with the cold. It means when it's very warm, it opens up, let the air go through, and when it's cold, it closes up and the air goes less through. This was made because we found it's very funny actually. We found this system in warehouses where you grow vegetables. Where you have those big warehouses and you have the windows that goes up when they need to ventilate, and it goes down. So it's not something that we invented, but we use it for a place where people can live. There you go. That's like a pomme de pain. And then maybe another fun project. I'm going a bit faster. Another project is this Cocoon Cabin, which stems from also an old technique, which is a technique from maybe at the end of the 19th century when there was a big industry, and it's the technique of glass tiles on very, very thin glass tiles on a metal structure. The idea of this project is that it's a double layered cabin. So you have a first layer, which is a protection from the rain, which is this glass house. And then you have another layer, which is this, you can see the base that we build this, where it's going to be, it's all made of earth, and that it's where you have the warmth. So the soil is made of earth, the base is made of earth, you'll see the dome is made of earth. It means that you have a very, very cozy atmosphere inside, protected by the rain, because of course we use only raw earth. So it means when the rain goes on it, it would be catastrophic. So you have to protect it. We actually made those bricks ourselves. We made ourselves practice. We made ourselves a few molds made of zinc. And then we made the bricks. That's someone from the practice, Boris, making bricks. It took us about a week to make all the bricks. So what you do, you put them in, and then you just let it dry. It's a very, very, very simple technique. There's a lot of people using it in North Africa, maybe in Turkey as well. In France, it's been completely forgotten. So it starts to come back. So it was interesting for us to do this. Clay, mainly clay. So there you go. You have the earth intimate little hut where you have a bed, a little heater, and then you stay there overnight. Another experiment. So this, you know how we use straw bale in all our buildings. We usually use them in tanks, like the egg ships. What we wanted to experiment on a small building is structural straw bale, which means it's the straw bale that holds the roof. We're not the first one to do this, but it's not very used. So we tried on that. So what you do is you pile up the straw bale and then you compress all the piles so that it becomes so compressed that it becomes structural. The idea is that when you do this, use even less wood, and you only use straw bale, and also you avoid any thermal bridge because you have no structure. So it's wonderful on paper. It's a rather heavy. It's a rather heavy technique, but it's pretty efficient because you have the straw bale, then you have the lime render, which is outside. It's a lime earth render. You have to put some lime, otherwise the render is gonna wash away. You use local guys. This is our roofer and our wood maker. What's interesting is that those guys are, in France, we have the Compagnons du Tour de France. So those are guys that have spent their life learning their craft. But what happens is that the only place where they use their craft are in patrimonial buildings, conservation buildings, so churches or mayor office, etc., etc. But they rarely have the occasion to use their craft, their really know-how on other buildings. And when we come and you say you're going to work on a straw bale house like this, does it interest you? They are so happy, and they have a way of thinking that helps you a lot on how to put things together because they know the material. You really shouldn't underestimate this. If you want to be sustainable, you have to work with these guys. So we have an earth render, which is inspired by a Japanese render on reed. The Japanese are really strong at this work, but they're not the only one. There you go. Okay, I'm gonna maybe wrap it up. This is just a small. This was another project that we could talk about. It's a tasting room which is suspending in the air in a building in Chambertin. Nothing special about it. It's also a straw bale insulation. The only thing is that I mean, you should have fun when you do some architecture, or at least that's what we think. There you go. I'm going to go through the inside. This illustrates really the way we want to work. You have to, the hand has to be near the material, and then the material does your architecture. I'm just going to finish. So I'm just going to finish on something that I did maybe 3 weeks ago. So we were invited in Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon, which is a small island in the other side of the Atlantic, which is actually part of France. It's a French department. And we were asked to go there because, unfortunately, Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon is going to be submerged, which means the sea is going to go on top of it, at least on the island of Miquelon, which means they're going to have to move the village, because the village is on a small isthmus, so maybe a beach, small beach, which is actually, it's interesting. The village is where the sea is going to rise, because it's the new village, and so we've been asked to go there and help them move the village. The reason they asked us and the other architects is that this is a result of climate change. And their thinking is, well, if it's a result of climate change, it means what we're going to build afterwards needs to take this into account and be sustainable. So we're going to ask architects that work in that area. Also, this is an island where there's nothing. There's no trees. You can't use the rocks. There's no straw bale. There's nothing, which means the only way you can build is by importing materials, which means you have to be very careful about what you import. This is what they used to build. So they used to build like Canadian style houses that were made of wood that were taken from ships. And this house actually has been displaced twice. So it's on Miquelon, but it was on 2 other islands. Very easy, it's a wooden construction that you take apart and then you can rebuild it very easily. So it's not insulated at all. So it means they use about 500 liters of fuel every month. So it's crazy. So this is what we work on. What they do now is they try and do the same style, but they use foam, concrete, plastic windows, and structure that you can't take apart, which means that this thing is going to be underwater and we can't do anything about it. This guy, I could move it and do something about it, and this one I can't anymore. It means you have to reinvent. This is on the left is the old way. So this was old boat structure, and then on the right is what they import from Canada now, which means you can see it's not the same quality. But the interesting thing is that for us, it's easy to be frugal in a way, because we have everything. We have stone, we have wood, we have earth. It's, in a way, it's easy. It's just about willing to do it and knowing how to do it. So we have to do it. We have no excuse. But when you are in Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon and you're far away from everything and you're dependent from importations and you are a big consumer, because also they have the habits of North America. So they have big pickups and they heat a lot. How are you frugal? What's your strategy? What do you work on? I find that very, very interesting. For me, for us, it's a challenge, because it pushes us to think about how we can be sustainable in other sets. And probably it's you have to work on where the material is produced, how it's produced, and how it comes to where it's built. So there you go. That's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks a lot, Emmanuel. It was very good presentation, and I'm sure very informative for the students, especially on how simple the materials are, and then how we should be careful with what we are doing. So thanks a lot about it. And I really like the part when you are telling, if we study the material for making wine, why we don't do it for growing people? I mean, for people. So yeah, that's what we do. So we have a bit of 10 minutes before the next presentation is starting. So thanks to be right on time. And if anyone has any question to Emmanuel, please, you can ask, you can write. If you're not sure, you can speak, you can open your camera to speak. That would be even the best. So we know Emmanuel knows who is speaking, because I know all of you, but he never saw you. So please, any question about this project, about the materials, about anything?
Don't be shy.
Please, I'm sure you have questions. Oh, okay, then Emmanuel, it means you did your presentation so good that they understood everything. So thanks. Yes.
Yeah. It takes a long time to process. We'll see.
Yeah, Özge, you can, please.
Sorry, I waited for our students, but I'm also very impressed by your work. I was watching with joy how you have made use of very ancient techniques with a very contemporary approach. I find your architecture really very poetic and entertaining at the same time, strangely, but I think it was really beautiful. Thank you for the whole presentation. Actually, I have two questions. The first one is about the glass cabin. I was just wondering about how you managed to join the glass tiles to the metal structure and how you kind of dealt with the runoff rainwater on that one. And for the, yeah, that one, exactly. Not that one, the one after that. Yes, this glass cabin. And the second one is about the straw bale cabin that you have shown us. I was wondering if you have used any kind of, I know you didn't use any kind of tie beams, but do you use anything like metal wires, for example, to bind the straw bales?
Okay.
Tie the rows. I was wondering about that.
Okay. Well, first question for the tile, for the glass tiles.
Yes.
It's actually very, very simple. We call it a mastic. I don't know if you have this. It's like a paste. It's water based. So you put it's tiles. So tiles are you just put one on top of the other, like normal clay tiles. And the metal structure has a little else on which you put the tiles on, and then you have we call it a mastic, and it's like a paste that we all used to work with on.
It's
on
macun in Turkish.
Macun. Maybe it's like Crystal Palace, huh?
I don't know in English, but I just know in Turkish. So macun.
Macun. Okay. So that's the first answer, and then for the straw bale. So this guy here, you're talking about for example, the white line that you see. No.
Yes, I see. Yes.
Okay. So there's no metal. There's a metal base on which we've put the walls on, because as you can see, it's slightly suspended in the air. So to do this, we had to go metal. But as for the straw bales, the thing you do is that you strap them on with like a belt.
Mm-hmm.
And you compress it, and once it's compressed, you leave it compressed. Actually, they didn't use, that's very interesting, they didn't use a belt on this project. They used like air cushions. So to compress it, they had air cushion that pushed the whole thing up, and then you put the roof on top of it.
Okay, I was wondering, like, if you have a horizontal layer, like you would put in an earthback house, you would put like barbed wire in between the rows to tie them together. But
no,
as far as I understand, no horizontal tie. Okay,
no,
thank you.
Not at all.
Thank you. Thank you.
No.
Thanks a lot, Özge, for your question. And we have some more question coming in the chat. Gökalp, would you like to ask your question, or should I read it?
Sure, Hocam, I can ask. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hocam, my question is the materials which are local is as efficient as the materials which is common buildings like XPS or the wools? Is it as efficient as these materials for like insulation?
So you mean is like, for example, is straw bale as efficient as a foam? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Obviously not.
This it
depends on the thickness. Yeah.
And this question is also affect the other materials like the bricks or the another all materials that you use in local. All of them is efficient, and in total they're efficient much more than the common materials, or there are much better or worse?
Well, it depends. It all depends on what thickness and how you put them on, etc., etc. The thermal resistance of foam in comparison to straw bale is really not the same. You'd need maybe 20 centimeters of foam to do 47 of straw bale. But then the energy you use to make it and the sustainability of it is not the same. As for bricks, it's the same. I mean, it depends on what you use and how you put it on, and then it's a question of philosophy and what you want to do afterwards. I mean, sometimes you have to use foam, because there are areas, and when you put something underneath a slab, a concrete slab, there's not much else. You can use cork, but it's a bit dangerous. So yeah, they're as efficient but different thickness.
Thanks very much.
I have a question.
Yes,
Yeah, I can see you. Mm.
Okay. Hi, Emmanuel, Mathieu.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is to I think it was the first project, the wine cellar.
Yeah.
So you said that you didn't use glue for the lamination.
Yeah.
I can understand the reasons for that.
Yeah.
And okay, yes, that picture exactly. And my question is, did you use or do you have experience about these wooden nails or this wooden welding technique?
Yeah.
Or what kind of technique did you use here instead of the lamination?
Well, in that project, it's actually, this project is a lamination, but not with glue, with nails.
Normal metal nails.
Normal metal nails.
No more metal. Did you use? I didn't understand. Did you use metal nails or not?
Yeah, we use metal nails.
Okay,
you can see the nail guns. We have projects where we use wood bindings.
Yes.
We are in a country where they use it. All the roofs are made of wood bindings, especially with oak. It's very, very efficient. So when we are in more traditional structures, we only do wood bindings and wood assemblings.
Okay. Do you have experienced the wooden nails to press them with air pressure instead of metal nails? I saw that in Austria.
Yeah. Yes.
Pressure.
Yeah,
they use it with air instead of hammer.
Yeah, we did it on one project where we work with the Austrians and the Swiss. For the moment, it works really well. It's still a bit experimental, I have to say. Mm-hmm. It's so. We didn't use it on our main structures. It was just secondary structures.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks a lot. And I think we could have 1 minute to answer the question of Ömercan, if possible, because it might be an interesting question for future architects. Ömercan, will you ask? No. Okay. The question was about if it was hard for you to develop your practice in zero carbon field with all the economic concerns, and do you think the client understands the frugality in architecture and the budget? Is it cheaper or more expensive to use such materials? It's a very complicated question, I know, and we don't have so much time. But if
no, it's a very, very interesting. To answer your question, I mean, at first. We didn't ask that question when we started. We just went for it, and the first project that we did, we said we're going to do the way we want to do it, like the sustainability. So it was a little bit hard at the beginning, of course. But then we weren't the first. We're not the pioneer of this. You have to realize that we're not the pioneer of this architecture. There were guys before us, like Bill Dunsters, but not only him. There was a lot of guys in the 80s. They are the one that had it really hard. They were struggling to have projects. We came at a time, which is 12 years ago, that was probably a lot easier. It doesn't mean that it was easy and that we didn't struggle to get projects. We did, because from the first step, we said we're not going to compromise. The result of this not compromising is that now people come to us for that and only that. I mean, it means that it's not that we created the market, but it means because our belief is very set and very aware in a way. People know, they come to us for that. So that's one of the good things. At the beginning, of course, there was no other project. On the, let's say, on the client side, well, it's trending now. It's people, that's what they want. But because it's the trend, what you need to do is to refuse to do it just for the trend. You have to do it because it's the right thing to do, and do it properly, not just for the image. That's probably the challenge at the moment. In terms of economy, of course, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's always the same thing. I mean, it's more expensive now, but it's less expensive in 10 years or 20 years or 100 years. That's the big belief. And that's why I was talking about time at the beginning. Construction is a magical thing. I mean, I find it magical. It's always unbelievable to see something go up. And I mean, you shouldn't underestimate this. It's why it's a passion. It's a passion work. I mean, that's why I do it. And you shouldn't forget that it's sort of magic, and that it should be built to be forever. That you should take the time, and you should take put the money in so that it's sustainable. So it's not really that you shouldn't take the economy into account. It's you have to convince your client. That's the way you do it. Easier to say today for me, because people are coming for that to us. It was less easy at the beginning, but still, I think that's the way to do it.
Thanks a lot, Emmanuel. Thanks a lot for everything, for this very good presentation. Mm-hmm. And I hope, to host you again next year to speak about this kindergarten. That would be wonderful. We will see. Sure. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And now, if you want to stay, if you have time, and Charles will present his project in Vietnam. So if you have time, you're welcome. If not, good luck and bonne continuation.
Merci, c'est gentil.
So Charles, Charles is an architect, again a French architect, but working not in France at all, as I understood. But we present project in Vietnam that he has done, and so thanks a lot, Charles, to be here with us today and to show to the student another perspective on frugality. Is a totally different way of building, totally different material, totally different climate and understanding probably of the construction techniques. So thanks a lot for being here with us, and when you are ready, you can share your screen. We are listening to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I don't know what time is it in Turkish.
It's
more or less 6 p.m. in Vietnam. Alors, let me share my screen. Share.
Yes.
Do you see my screen?
Yes. We see the slides, yes.
Okay, let me go for.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm sorry I didn't listen, I couldn't participate to the previous conference, so I don't know exactly what you talk about, but I just heard the end of the conference talking about frugality as well and sustainable architecture. So let's continue, but this time in Asia, Southeast Asia. I put this title, Happy and Creative Frugality in Architecture, because this is a group of persons who constitute this new movement, let's say. And I'm the representative for Vietnam and Cambodia. That's why I would like to introduce also this movement to you, the student in Turkish, because it seems there is no group in Turkish yet. So maybe it's a good occasion to create a group of frugality. Before to present I will present two projects of T3 Architects, so my company in Vietnam. I would like to just remind the context, even if we all know about it. So I will go quickly on it, but it's important to get this information in mind. I like this this image because you know, today we are talking about COVID since 2 years now, everywhere in the world, which is something huge, a huge pandemic. I don't say it's nothing. But on these drawings, you can realize how small is the problem of COVID compared to what is behind. So behind there is probably an economical crisis, maybe not everywhere in the world, but I can tell you in Vietnam, we have been concerned by the economic crisis the last 6 months because of the COVID. Now it's starting again and it's much better, fortunately. Then behind this, you have the climate change and all the bad effects on human and for the future, of course. So this is where we can do something as architects. And also on the backside, you have the biodiversity collapse. And humans are part of the biodiversity with all animals, all insects. So even if it looks far from us, this is a real risk if we don't change our practice today. And that's why I really recommend to all young architects to start their new job with this in mind. So about the negative impact of the construction sector, just to remind you, and I'm sure it's the same in Turkish, now we are in Asia, air pollution is a big issue now. So in Saigon, Hanoi, Saigon is 12 million inhabitants. So I don't know in Istanbul how many inhabitants, but I'm sure you start to get this kind of trouble. So problem for the health of the people and also the attractivity of the cities. It starts to be a problem because many investors don't want to come anymore because of pollution. So there is some economical bad effects on this pollution, not only on health. So we have to fight against this air pollution through our practice of architecture. Just also small numbers, but in terms of energy, construction sector represents more or less 40% of energy consumption. So it's a huge, and that's why the impact of construction is very important on energy consumption, and that's why we can save a lot of energy if we do it with a different way as the traditional way we see most in many countries now. Then, in terms of negative impact on the construction sector, there is also all the carbon emission of the material itself. So when you choose a material, you have to get in mind that you need some energy and some carbon to produce this material, to extract the material, to produce it, to transport to the site, construction site, then to build, then to demolish the building after 50 years. and then to recycle. So all this needs carbon, produce carbon emission. So the challenge now is how to reduce the carbon emission and try to make low carbon buildings. And then more generally, you have the impact of urbanization. So in Saigon, so this is an image of Vietnam, where you see the problem of impermeabilization of the soil and artificialization of the soil. So it's happened everywhere, but here it starts to be a real trouble. So during rainy season, so it means 4 months per year, we have flooding, and it's worse and worse. Even if the city is now very modern and with many good facilities, because of urbanization, and we don't take enough in consideration to preserve the natural soil. When there is a big rain, the water is going up quicker and quicker, and now some streets are underwater sometimes. And as you maybe heard, Jakarta, the biggest capital in Southeast Asia, will move, and they will move the capital in another place in Java Island now, because it's not, it's too dangerous to keep the capital where it is because of flooding. So Bangkok, Jakarta, Saigon are this kind of city with a big risk to disappear in a few decades. So it's completely crazy. Huh? We talk about moving 10 or 12 million inhabitants somewhere else. And then, of course, you have, when you have big cities like this, and when it's not properly designed, you have some problem with the gas emission of air conditioning or heating system. So it produces greenhouse gas, which is not good for global warming. Then the last negative impact I would like to mention is what we call the greenwashing. You know, today everybody will tell you, many architects, many investors, many real estate people will tell you, I do green buildings. But if you look at more in detail, it's not green at all, except a few plants on the balcony or some solar panel on the roof, but it doesn't mean your building or your construction is green. And you really have to be careful and understand what is the real sustainability or low carbon building, and avoid to go for this kind of fake green architecture, which is everywhere now on the advertising panels of the real estate and developers. And I'm sure it's the same in Turkish. So what we want, the new approach is to go for a more sustainable approach, and to build cities and architecture, so more sustainable, more desirable also. It's important. It's not only a question of engineering, it's a question of making a city where you feel good, where you have a pleasure to live. And it's not, you don't suffer to live there. So the transport will need to work properly. The air quality should be nice. You need many park and green area to go out and enjoy with your friends, etc. And then also bringing the frugal approach. It means doing more with less, generally speaking. So in Vietnam, what does it mean, frugality? But it can be in any country, I think. So I just put two pictures just to show you. This is our office. I talk to you from this office now on the left side. I'm here now. The night is coming soon. But, so we are in a very simple shape curved building made by timber with a palm leaves roof. So a simple material you can find in some river here. You just cut, make it dry, and you use it as a roof. So it's perfectly waterproof. It's a good insulation against sun, so you don't feel too hot. And then the morning we open the door on both sides of the building to create the natural ventilation, and we don't put air conditioning. And when it's very hot, of course, we put air conditioning, but we have a proper insulation to save energy as much as we can. This is another project in the North Vietnam, same around a river with a natural material for the roof, some local bricks, etc. So generally speaking, frugality in architecture is how to do more with less. So I mean less energy, less material, or material with low carbon footprint instead of industrial materials, less technology. So this is also something interesting for you, the future architect. Don't consider that high technology will answer to all the problem. On contrary, technology brings more technique, more electricity, more energy usually needs. And if you go for low-tech solution, it's much more frugal. And in the end, also less pollution. So it means we use less chemical, no plastic, and all this industrial material full of chemical we try to avoid. Then another interesting part of frugality in architecture is how to be inspired by the traditional architecture in any country and reinterpret. So produce a new architecture, but having in mind the traditional architecture. You cannot erase centuries of architecture in any countries because there is many good things to learn. So you have to keep the main principle, let's say, and then of course you can continue to innovate and to produce a contemporary design, as you can see on those pictures. Then another important thing, so especially for Asia, before and still now, many projects, the architect and contractors, they import material from abroad. And what we want to change is, for the frugal approach, is promote the local material. In any country, you have some local materials. And if you study carefully, for sure, you have everything you need to build whatever you want, more or less. So the idea is really to produce an architecture made with local materials. And ideally, those materials should be geosourced. It means coming from the soil. So it can be stone or earth, or coming biosourced, coming from the nature. So the trees, the bamboo, all the straw you can find in any country. So this is what we try to do in Vietnam. And then the last thing important is to design any building wherever you are, following the bioclimatic principle. It means in any countries, any cities, you have some special climatic condition, big rain, heavy. It can be very hot in Saigon, for example, during March, April, and May. In October, November, we have big rains. How we make sure our building is well protected from the sun and well protected from the rain. It seems to be very basic, but I can tell you 80% of architects don't take care of these basic rules of climatic conditions. So in Asia, what you need is a big roof to protect your facade. So you avoid to have water along your facade, and the roof makes shadow on your facade as well. So it keeps the facade cool. If the facade is under shadow, you need less energy to make it comfortable for people. So just very quickly about the frugality, the happy and creative frugality movement. This is those 3 people in France who set up this movement 4 years ago now. And today we have 13,000 people who signed the manifesto. You can find it on the internet easily. It is translated in English and many languages already. We even did the Vietnamese translation a few months ago. So maybe a Turkish translation can be nice to involve more people.
It is done.
It's done already. Okay, perfect. And then, okay, in France, you have a group of frugality in every province. And now you have, I read recently, 8 international groups. So we are one of it, but maybe Turkish soon, or maybe it's done already. I don't know. And those three people are one architect who always was involved in sustainable architecture. Dominique is more a teacher between France and Germany and around Europe to promote sustainable architecture since 20 years already through magazine and books and conference. And Alain Bornarel is a energy efficiency engineers. So this is a collaboration of those people who allow to make this movement quite powerful. And I hope it can grow all around the world to change the mind of architects and make some building more sustainable. That's the goal for all of us. I go maybe quickly on this, but just to show you one example of what we do with this group. In France now, we have a cartography of France. And for every city, we have mentioned all the supplier of green materials. So you can go on this cartography, click, and if you do a project, I don't know, around Lyon, for example, you click here and you have all the contact of supplier producing locally green materials you can use for architecture. And then you have also the contact of all the contractor able to build with those materials. So this now we have it's very efficient. So if you do a project in another part of the country, you can click on the cartography and it's like an exercise. And you say, okay, let's take only the material I can source locally in a perimeter of 200 kilometers maximum. And you don't import anything from another region or from another country. So you save transport cost and you also limit the carbon emission for transport. And you promote the local material, so you make an architecture which is more integrate to the landscape. So few projects in China. This is Studio Anna Heringer of Frugal architecture. You can see it can be totally different, the style. Huh? So she used some bamboo structure. She was inspired by the bird's cage. In all Asia, we use it to put chicken inside. So she just oversized the shape of those cages, those boxes by bamboo, and she put a building made in clay. And it's very typical from Asia or China, this region. You have the know-how locally to build, and it's only natural material you took from the forest next to the plot. Another project totally different in France, Studio Lada, for example. So it's a very contemporary architecture using wooden structure, for example, from a local wood, not wood coming from the other part of the world. And then they use stone to make the facade, a local stone. Then, of course, you can use a little bit of concrete where it's necessary. We don't say we cannot use any more concrete or some material like this, but you just have to use the minimum concrete as possible and only where it's necessary. If you don't need it, just use the biosourced material or geosourced material. Some other project in Vietnam this time. So this is a small project. We did a dojo to practice judo. So it's more about bioclimatic design with a roof typical from Asia. We don't see too much on this picture. With some reference, you feel directly you are in Asia. And all the insulation of this roof was made with rice husk, the skin of the rice. So we use 20 centimeter or 30 centimeter of rice to insulate the roof. Another project from another studio, doing a house in the countryside, only using local bricks, which allow natural ventilation and a decent comfort, even under a tropical climate. Just some example of frugal materials you can find in Vietnam. Some clay, so you can find everywhere in the world, but then you have to study, of course, carefully the clay you use and how you make your walls with. This is the rice husk I was talking about. We insulate with this thing in Vietnam. We are the first to do it. Huh? It's something new, but in Vietnam. And Vietnam produces 90,000 tons of rice husk every year. So, you know, it's a big, there is a big potential to use this kind of material. And today, either people don't insulate the building or they put rock wool, you know, which is a pity when you have this material available, which is very well adapted for tropical climates because it is full of silicate, which resist well to humidity. And then you just mix with diatomeous earth, a kind of white powder. You can find it everywhere. They use it also for food. And it's just an insect repellent. So it's just to avoid having insect inside your rice husk. Then we can use many bamboo webbing to make sailings, some wooden stick, some cheap wood available and very easy to find in Vietnam to do whatever you want, even a luxury restaurant like this. So now I will focus more on two projects we did with T3 Architect. One is a dormitories project to welcome students, and another is in Saigon city center, an office building. So very contemporary, and but you're just using natural material. So I will show you. So I start by the dormitories. So just to explain you, this is 40 kilometers from Saigon in the countryside, but the city will grow around, so it's still countryside, let's say. And the owner has the house here. It's a family, French-Vietnamese family living in Vietnam. They have some horse here. Here they have a place to a kind of restaurant with a pool. They have a small eco lodge with bungalow over a pound. And here they produce some water, some clean water to drink, drinkable water. And we just built this small building to welcome international school and Vietnamese school to make green classes for a 3 days trip. So they spend 2 nights or 3 nights. And then they have many programs around sustainable construction, permaculture, farming, etc., etc. This is the goal of this project. So we are in, I'll just continue. So this is the main facade from the ground floor, let's say. So just for information, we have been nominee this year on Arch Daily, even if this project is frugal and very simple and even low cost. So just to show you, you can be on the biggest architecture website with a very frugal approach. You know? So this main facade is the north facade. And we put the main facade on the north just to avoid to get light. You know, in France or Europe, you try to get the light from the south. In Vietnam, this is the contrary. You try to avoid having direct light, because if you have the sun, it means it's very hot. So we are on the north, so you never have direct sun on this facade. And then we have a very large roof to make sure when there is a sun above here, it doesn't touch the facade. So the facade is always under the shadow. So it's always fresh. Then you can see we add even a pergola here to make sure at any season of the year, we never have the sun going inside the building. And as you can see, all the rooms, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rooms, have a double facade with opening on both sides. And it creates naturally a natural airflow, because you have always one facade more hot than the other. So naturally, it creates airflow through the building. I think I have a section, you know. It creates the airflow naturally. This wall, which is south, sometimes is a little bit exposed, so it's a little bit more hot. So the fresh air from the north goes through the south. And during the night also, the airflow can happen. So it's very important when you do, you want to get natural ventilation, to get 2 facades, opposite facades with opening. So if I come back here, just to explain you about the material. So we use a simple steel structure. So we produce locally to get a low carbon footprint, because the steel was already there. and just a question to installing on site, and we can recycle in the future, but even if we build for more than 50 years, I hope. And then all the other materials are a little bit of concrete here, because at rainy season, the water can be on the garden, few days per year. It's not often, but sometimes the water goes up. So we are 60 centimeters above the soil to make sure there is never water inside the building. And if there is water, the concrete resists well to water and flooding. And to build this, this project, we first demolish some old building, and we use the waste of the material to raise the building above the floor. So we reuse the existing materials. Then all other materials are made by wood from Vietnam, local wood, and bamboo webbing, we call it. So it make it's close enough, but you have some holes, and the air can go through. Same for the door. Here you have some louvers, so the air can go through when you close the door during the night. So I show you again the sections. And here the roof, as you see, it's always much longer than the facade. We don't stop the roof here, like many people. We extend minimum 1.5 meters, sometimes more, depending on the sun orientation, to protect from the rain, to protect from the sun. Then we take a clear color for the roof. So we have a very light green color here to reflect the part of the sun. And then we have 20 centimeters of rice insulation all over the roof, as you see on this picture. But it's very simple. Huh? You put wooden panels under, you put rice, and then metal panels. So very cheap, very efficient. Between indoor and outdoor, you have 5 degrees less on average. So when it's 33 outside, you have 28 inside. Then with the efficient ceiling fan, you produce some airflow, which makes the temperature very acceptable to live properly without air conditioning, which is not so easy in a tropical climate. So this is a layout, quite simple, you know, it's to get students, so 4 beds, 4 bunk beds, so 8 people per rooms with some toilet, some sink, and some shower, and the cross ventilation through the building. Then we have a terrace all around for just enjoying outside. You can see the back facade. Always, we also use a wooden frame and bamboo, and you can ventilate your bathroom. You can have the view on the landscape, of course. Of course, we kept all the bamboo and the trees around when we start the construction. We didn't cut any trees. And you can see how we did. So we have to demolish some existing building, as I explained you before. So we keep those bricks destroyed to make the building 50 or 60 centimeters higher than the natural soil to avoid flooding. Then we build the steel structure and some bricks walls. Then we had the facade, then the pergola and the roof, and then we duplicate 7 times because they wanted to welcome 2 classes. So it means around 50 students plus teachers. And it's very successful now. So all the schools of Saigon are going there to spend time and discover this part of Vietnam. Inside, you can see it's very frugal also, just a concrete floor. So it's very fresh when you walk on it. So you use the concrete where it's useful. As I told you, it's strong. You can keep it for long. It's resistant to water, and it brings freshness inside. And then all the rest, the walls are covered by lime plastering. So we don't use cement. We use only lime and sand. And the color of the sand gives the color of the wall in the end, of the plastering. And then we design some bed in bamboo because there is a lot of bamboo in Vietnam. So there is many type of bamboo. So depending on what you do, you use the right bamboo. So for furniture, this one is good. And we always try to avoid to add chemicals. So we try to avoid any treatment with chemicals even on the furniture. Then you can see we use only dry toilets, so no water. Even if you have 8 people inside, it works very well. So we build the box, and then you have some rice to put if you go to the toilet. And then you have a door on the back side. So for operation, the owner and the team, they can open without going inside the room and take the box every once a day. And they use it for the compost. So they do compost and then they do agriculture. Here you can see also the small bathroom. So it's very functional and simple. And this is the last picture, I think. So you see $350 per square meter. So just to show you, we can produce a bioclimatic architecture, which is a nominee on Archdaily for a cheap price and with a frugal approach. And this is a part of the family, the owner, with 6 kids. So this is the first project, and I will present one more, totally different in another context, and then you can ask any question. So we are in Saigon, next to our office here, 500 meters from our office. So it's a kind of residential mixed-use area, let's say. We have offices, residential, city center is not far, as you see. A lot of residential buildings, a lot of tower, a lot of retail, of bar, etc. So we are in a city of 12 million inhabitants. So of course, the density is medium and more dense. We have air pollution, not all the time, but it can happen. So we have to take care. We have to take in consideration this aspect, which is not the case in the countryside. And the plots are not so big compared to the countryside. So you have to play with the existing. So this project is a renovation project. You know, it was a new building, but this is a picture from when we start the project. So it means a building made with steel structure, then with single bricks wall painted in dark gray. So you know when there is sun here, the dark gray wall absorbs the sun and it's so hot inside. Then many windows are fixed. You cannot open it. So you cannot create a ventilation. Some of them are openable, but not much. So it's very hot. So for us, when we saw the first time, we consider this building as a solar oven. You know, if you go inside, it's 50-degree temperature. You cannot stay here. And it was supposed to be an office already and an art gallery. So we tell to the owner, okay, we cannot keep it like this. It's so bad in terms of bioclimatic design. Then this is a garden. You know, in Vietnam, what they like to do, if you have a garden, they put concrete on everywhere to make it clean. Then they put stone or ceramic tiles. And then they put some planters with some plants. But you don't have any more natural soil to absorb the water during rainy season. You don't have even soil for having grass, normal grass and normal plants. So we have to demolish it. Our first thing was to demolish the floor, and just to show you before and after. So first idea was to work on the facade, how to make the facade more efficient to preserve to be more protected from the sun. So our idea was to install some bamboo stick all around the building. So this is the north facade. This is the east facade. So north facade, we are not so exposed to the sun. That's why we have only bamboo to create a double skin. And the double skin makes the wall behind on the shadow. So it remains fresh and cool. So the need of air conditioning is much lower than before. And then for the east facade, the sun is coming from here in the morning. So we have to add some sun protection, as you see here, with different material to make sure there is no sun going inside the building. Because if the sun going inside, it means your floor starts to be hot. And if the floor starts to be hot, You feel hot and you start to put air conditioning on 20 degrees when it's 33 outside. So the consumption of air conditioning is huge. So by doing this, we used to work with energy efficiency engineers. We save $10,000 of energy per year for the building. And we also bring much more comfort for customers, which is most important. But both are important. So you see before existing condition, and we add a second layer, double skin facade. So for all the country with a lot of sun and without strong winter, this is very efficient to get a double facade. Then sun protection, you can see some other pictures. So north facade, no need air sun protection additional, and east facade. For the west, we did the contrary. We block the sun from the west side, of course. And the south, it's a U shape to make sure all the windows is perfectly protected from the sun. So we use a local bamboo, and it's a bamboo made to be preserved straight like this, without too much treatment. That's why we choose these species of bamboo. Some other picture. And here another big challenge we want to bring to this project is, before you had a full glass facade with only 2 small doors. We told to the client, let's create a nice garden around the building again. So we break the concrete floor, we break it to plant many plants, tropical plants. So it was at the beginning, but now the plants grow very quickly in tropical climates. So it's already much bigger. And let's keep the ground floor totally open. So let's remove the air conditioning of the ground floor, and we just preserve the cross natural ventilation by keeping the windows totally open. You can just close few hours per year. So it's sliding doors when there is a big rain and you really need to protect the inside. But normally we have even a roof here to make sure, even if there is a rain, there is no rain inside. So you can see other picture. So we work again with energy efficiency engineers to prove to the owner that we don't need air conditioning. He didn't believe us from the beginning. He told us, no, it's too hot in Vietnam, we cannot. We say, don't worry, we have three floors above. It is a very good thermal insulation to get 3 floors above you. Then we get this additional roof, so there is no sun inside your building. And then we open everything. So the natural airflow is quite good. And of course, we add some efficient ceiling fan with a very good rate of airflow. And I can tell you today, every morning you have 1,300 people working in this office, and it's full of people inside, outside, working with laptop, having coffee before to go later in their office. Even if they rent this space, they love to work outside or between inside and outside without air conditioning. And this office is a 100% occupancy now, when many other offices now are much lower occupancy. Just because you feel good, the thermal comfort is good, you feel the nature around you, and the design is clean and efficient. So even we did also interior design. We not only do architecture. So when we do interior design, we promote local material. So the ceramic tiles are produced in Vietnam. All the tables are made with solid wood. It's not fake wood. We even go for antique shop to find some old furniture, and we renovate to make the coffee shop, for example. Then the existing structure was there. So of course we keep the existing to save energy. If the structure is there, we keep it. Just show you also, we try to bring some natural material inside a modern style building. So it creates some contrast between modernity of the steel structure and some walls with lime plastering again, only lime and the sand will give the color of the wall. So you have some texture on the wall. All this is made by wood, solid wood, and rattan, made in Vietnam as well. And all the decoration is from a local craftsman to promote local know-how. And the goal is also to make a proper air quality inside the building. So we want to avoid to use chemicals. So even if we use plywood, it's plywood with a grade 1, so with a minimum chemical inside. When most of the projects, they use MFC wood, you know, the panels with a powder of wood full of glue and full of chemicals. So we don't use it anymore, even if it's cheaper. And I think one more view of the project. So the cost for the full renovation was $450 per square meter. So it's not that much in the end, not more than any other project. And the result is very good in terms of business, in terms of architecture, and the same, it's a good project. A last project I want to present you is another possibility to make luxury sustainable architecture. So we are more in the luxury segment, because with T3 and Canopia, we are involved in a hospitality project, hotel and resorts, so 4-star, 5-star, etc. And of course, when you have to design this kind of project, how to make it as sustainable as possible. So that's why we set up this company, Canopia, and we produce some lodge, all made by timber structure, wood. And then above the lodge, I can just show you to understand better. So you have a tensile roof to make a big umbrella above the timber building under. So it creates a very good sun protection. So your building is always on the shadow, which is very important on the tropical climate. And then also it's avoid to get the rain on the facade, because the rain here is so dense, so big. So it's damaged your facade. After 5 years, you have to replace the panels if you keep it under the rain. So with this double roof, we protect the building so we can keep it much longer. And then we have a deck like this with a steel structure. On this picture, just for information, the deck is 5 meters above the natural soil. You don't see, but we are 5 meters above the soil. And we just to get the sea view. So here you have a beautiful sea view, and your infinity pool suspended with some net, suspended net, some satellite for the bathroom, etc. So just to show you sustainability, our frugal approach is also can be good for a luxury segment as well. I just show you some other picture. Now we are doing this project now in Vietnam, a 5-star resort. So we remove the tensile and we put a double roof made with wooden tiles. So it's made by wood. And then under you have another layer of insulation. So you have 2 roofs and airflow in between to keep it very fresh. And then again, we have big pergola around to make sure the facade is never exposed to the sun. And here we have the same. We are 6 meters above the natural soil. We have a staircase to access your deck and facing a river in a UNESCO city in central Vietnam. You know, this is from inside. So we did a design inspired by nature from the leaves. And we used to work with carpenters, and we use some local materials we source locally. So for every project for the interior design, we produce locally the interior design. So this is some special straw for the fall ceiling, for decoration. All the furniture are made by wood from Vietnam, or we source some antique furniture. The painting is made from vegetables and no chemicals, vegetables juice, rattan for the doors, etc. And some very efficient fans to avoid using too much air conditioning. Of course, we have air conditioning, but for information, this lodge, the consumption of energy is divided by 4 compared to the average of 5-star resort in Vietnam. So the average of the 5-star resort in Vietnam consume more or less 200 comment on appelle ça? You remember? Kilowatt hours per square meter per year, and this lodge is around 50 or 60 kilowatt per square meter per year, which is very good under tropical climate. So the same. Huh? So just to finalize the presentation, the frugal architecture in Turkey of tomorrow is will come with you. So continue to be aware of all this new approach of architecture. Don't follow too much what you see around you. And this, what I show you and what the previous conference show you is the future of architecture is more this than ugly building only with concrete and a lot of air conditioning or heavy heating system. So welcome for any question and answer.
Thanks a lot, Charles, for this presentation that, yes, really shows some totally different building, totally different materials, but the same approach to the using local materials, using local answers for architects. So thanks a lot for it. And I think it was very interesting for the students to see other type of materials that they might use or not use, other strategies, because we are also in a place where, exactly as in Vietnam, we don't want sun, at least not in the summer, for sure.
Okay.
So that was really interesting I'm sure for them to hear. So thanks a lot. And is there any question from anyone in the audience? No.
Second conference.
Yeah, second conference, but it was not more questions than first. It's usual. So I will ask then. One of the questions I had was about in the dormitory that you are using compost toilets.
Yes.
And okay, for the owners that are accepting it easily, because they chose it, but the people coming here, how is there? Do you know anything about how they feel about it?
First time they are afraid of it, and then they just use it one time and they realize there is absolutely no difference, absolutely no smell, no bad smell. And then because you don't take care of managing after, everybody is happy with. You know, some international schools are coming here with kids who pay a very high cost for school fees, and they are all happy to use this dry toilets.
Okay.
So no problem. No.
Good to hear, because I mean that's also, I'm not sure that any of the students heard about it before. So
yeah, it's more psychologically. You say, oh, it's not clean, and when you use it, you realize there is no problem, and you don't use water. So that's the main difference.
Yeah.
So in certain countries, for sure, it can have a big impact. When you are missing water, it's a good way to save water. I don't say we can use it everywhere, but if it's properly managed and properly designed, I think it will become more and more normal.
Okay. Thanks. And Özge, one of the participants, one of the also instructor at university, is asking about legality of it. Is it allowed in Vietnam? Because in Turkey, it might most probably not be allowed to build such kind of things.
In Vietnam, if you are a private owner, I think you do what you want. Nobody will really check too much in detail.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's a good solution.
Still flexible on this.
Okay.
If you do a real hotel with much more rooms, of course, you will have a service, hygienic service who will come. So let's see, we will try. We will probably try in some future projects to make a bigger scale project with dry toilets. What you can do also is to balance normal toilet with dry toilets in certain area. Yeah.
And Gokab. Gokab, you can ask your question, please.
Hi, first of all, thanks for your presentation. I would like to ask that you designed a second roof for all luxury resort buildings for the last pages of your slide, but the outdoor toilet didn't have one. What about the solution about that?
I'm not sure I well understood the question. I didn't hear well.
This project has an outdoor toilet.
Yeah, you mean?
Building, which is the main part, has a second roof for covering the facade, but the toilet doesn't have one. What about the solution about that? To cover the facade and for toilet, the rain doesn't come here. Toilet part.
I think, you know, in the 5-star resorts now, people are looking for special experience. So if there is a big rain, okay, you have 5 meters to do, you take an umbrella and you cross the bridge. It's part of the experience. People will pay 1,000 per night for this.
Okay.
So no worry. They accept to play the game. And usually when there is a big rain, it doesn't last too long. So, and in worst case, you just cross and it's few meters. No worry. But we can imagine to create a pergola or something to cover. But the client didn't request, and I think it's a good experience.
Thanks very much.
In our office now, when we go to toilet, we go by outside. And when it's raining, okay, you run, you make exercise. Any other question?
Yes, I will have if no one else asks. Now, I was really interested about the renovation project of the office. Because, I mean, usually when we speak about using natural material, using such kind of construction techniques, we are mostly speaking about new buildings. So making renovation, how did it work? How you could manage to not convince the client, but to manage the new materials with the already existing ones, for example? How you manage to create systems that could be combined or that could fit together?
No, we just use the existing. We study carefully the existings. I will try to show you. You know, we had this kind of concrete planters. The first idea of the previous architect was to put some plants here going down, I think. But with the irrigation system and something, as I told you before, maybe a bit too much high tech. So it means you have to consume energy to put plants. During dry season, the plants will die for sure. During rainy season, you will have too much water and the plant will also die. So we just say, okay, let's remove we keep the planter, but we don't plant anything. And we use this to attach the bamboo facade on it, vertical bamboo facade. And then for each windows, we try to get a nice design to protect every single windows as much as we could. And we study with some software on SketchUp or even basic software. You can see at different seasons where is going the sun from. And you just calculate the size of the shading to make sure there is no sun coming inside. Yeah. So I think every project after should be a different approach. And we did, I have many other, of course, to show. where we use ceramic tiles on the facade produced in Vietnam for another type of project. So, but the main idea is which kind of material using for which purpose. So it's not only aesthetic, as you see, we needed a material cheap because the budget was quite low, efficient for double skin facade, easy to install, easy to replace also. If you have to replace few of them, it's very easy, one by one, you can replace in 5 years, maybe a few of them. And a material with a good insulator property. So it should be wood or bamboo. So we use bamboo because it's cheaper.
Okay. Thanks a lot for all of this, Charles. I don't know if anyone else wants to add something. Görkem is asking if what's bamboo and insects? Is there no problem of insects like termite or anything?
Yeah, so that's why for every use of, if you need bamboo, there is in Vietnam, I don't know, 100 type of bamboo. So for the one more resistant to insects, we took one quite resistant naturally. Then either you put it in the mud for a few weeks to make sure the mud kills the insect inside the bamboo, or you burn a bit some part of the bamboo to remove insect, and then you put a low layer of protection, against insect and sun. Voilà. So we took a bamboo very resistant normally to be used for facade, and then we have a small layer to be insect repellent. So a little bit chemicals, so only outside. So there is no risk of having a bad chemical inside. But we took the right bamboo to make sure it will resist well. If you took the first bamboo you find in your garden, of course it doesn't work. After 6 months, it disappears, eaten by termites and mushrooms and any insect.
Okay. Thanks a lot. And this is something good for us to know, because in Turkey there is no bamboo.
Okay.
Yet the climate would be suitable, but it's not an endemic species, and so doesn't exist yet, but it could. So not any bamboo, not anywhere. So good. Okay. So in this case, if there is no more question, thanks a lot again, Charles, for your time, and
you're welcome.
Taking the time here in the evening to be here with us. So, and I think it was really good for us. So thanks. And if you have time to listen more, we have another presentation from Martin and Alizé that will be here to present their projects in 2 different architecture studios in France. So you're welcome according to the time you have. And thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Martin, Alizé, if you are ready, whenever you want.
Hello. Hello,
Hi.
Charles.
Hello, Martin. We know each other.
Okay.
Hello, Emmanuel.
So Martin and Alizé will be here to present work they are doing in 2 different architecture studios in France, and they make a common presentation. And I'm really happy that they accepted it to come. I don't know them again. I've just contacted them because I was impressed by the work they were doing. And also, I'm following the work of Martin in his online magazine since a long time. I guess since the beginning, I'm reading it when I have the time. So when I saw he accepted the invitation, I was really happy. So thanks a lot, Martin and Alizé, to be here and to present us your approach on frugality, frugal material, frugal architecture.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope
Hello
you
to
can
everyone.
hear us well.
Yes, very good.
I'm going to share the screen. Yeah.
I start. we are going to talk first mise analyses and mise analyses and mise analyses. You see, so maybe at the beginning we don't have the right pace, but we will find it at some point, I think. So the title we found with Mathieu was Vision of Frugality, French example of bio and geosource architecture. But first, I was asked to say a few words on the frugality movement that started in France, but also around the world. Actually, it started 4 years ago, almost day to day, that Alain Bornarel, Dominique Gossin-Muller, and Philippe Malek wrote a manifesto entitled Manifesto for Happy Frugality, Architecture and Planning of Urban and Rural Territories. And their starting point was that, of course, you know it, I believe, of course, that construction, in a broader sense, building, road, infrastructure, and everything contribute to global warming, that pollute the air and the water, that construction artificialize the ground, that produce a lot of waste. So it's what we are doing as architects is actually a big part of all the environmental issue of today. So they decided, the three of them, so Alain is an engineer and Dominique and Philippe are architects, to wrote this manifesto as a kind of a call for all the profession, but also outside, because it's not just a problem of architecture is everywhere, as you know, of course. So it's not just a problem of architects, and they call it happy frugality, and it's not frugality in a sense of kind of economic or greedy or kind of a misery way. It's more really we have to understand frugality as a kind of a careful management of the resource and a careful management of the fruits of the earth in a way, so we can still live on the earth in the future, in the next decades or century and everything. So they wrote this manifesto 4 years ago, and since then kind of more than 13,000 people sign it from over 80 countries. I look up this morning, only 6 people signed it in Turkey, among them Mathieu, of course, but maybe there will be a few more afterwards. But what is more, I think, interesting and stimulating is that after the publication of the manifesto, 30 groups of people got together. Charles have one in Vietnam and Thailand, in the Southeast Asia, but also in different parts of France, but also in Belgium, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in several countries. So it's kind of really great that people are coming together and working together and doing projects together, and also exchange information and contacts and their knowledge, of course, on building with bamboo, with earth and everything, because as they written in the manifesto, frugality, they are taking the word frugality in 3 kind of a domain. First one no, you can put it back on the first one. Sorry, thank you. First one in energy, so it's kind of a bioclimatic approach, design, but I think you are really aware of this already. But also frugality in materials that we are going to talk more a bit later. So building with bamboo, with earth, with straw, with, of course, wood, stone and everything, but also with the idea that we have to put the right material at the right place for the right solicitation, and also at a kind of a right price. You know, like frugality cannot be a kind of something for the upper class and the wealthiest and everything. It's for everyone. So we have to be careful about that, because it often still today can be a bit pricey sometimes, but not always. And of course, frugality in technology. So it's kind of we prefer low tech architectures and a high tech, because low tech is more, everybody can put his hand on it and understand it and build it and take care of it in time. So it's more lasting in a way. So we prefer we are not, there is an expression now that is smart city and smart grid and smart building. And often in our discussion, we said that it's not the kind of smart that we want. It's not, we don't rely on the tech system, on the smart tech system, but more on the brightness of the inhabitants and the dwellers and the architects and the craftsmen and everything. So on the next slide, I just put one kind of sentence from the manifesto. It's actually, I don't think there is a translation in Turkish, but there is one in English, so you can.
There is in Turkish. I made it done.
Oh, okay, great, perfect. So, okay, you can read this one already then, so we can move forward. So now it was just kind of an introduction, and then Alizé will present a bit of a path to frugality, and then I will do the same, and then we will present some project that we work on or that we took part in a way or another. Alizé?
Yes. So just to introduce myself, so during my studies, but I did in Versailles in France, at the school we were not taught about bio or eco construction. So it was really me outside of the school that decided to get hands-on with participative constructions. So this is an example of an earthship, but I went to several times to understand how you can build this, and then I really realized how the fact of getting the hands-on really helped me to design as an architectural student, and to draw and plan the composition of a wall, and to better understand the construction processes. And UP is my first initiation to earth construction. And I really felt in love with earth because I thought there was all this sensitive process, and also all these technical sides that really interested me. So after my architecture diploma, I wanted to take a gap year to understand more about these techniques in bio and geo-sourced materials. So this is a training ProPie, straw construction, that Martin will talk a little bit more about. Then I went also to India and to some other countries to discover how they were building also with earth or with straw. So this is in Auroville. It's one of the biggest communities in the world, but is trying to link the human, to unite the human and nature together. And this was for an Adobe workshop. We were building vaults and domes. So it was very interesting to see their way of building. And then I did the postmaster with Crater in France. So it's in 2 years. The first year is more about theory and some exercises also with hands-on. And then the second year is more about the physics and experiences that we want to develop. So it was really interesting to have this this study in laboratory, to really understand how the Earth was working at the molecular scale, but also how it was working on site at some biggest scale. So this was a round earth training on how to renovate an old house in near Lyon. So Crater was set it up in the 70s, I think, and they really wanted to combine all the knowledge that existed on Earth in France and also abroad. This is a wheel of techniques. So depending on the way you are acting with the Earth, then you get a different technique. What was interesting also in this training was that we learned how to recognize the Earth, how to analyze it, and then depending on the soil you have somewhere, you can see what technique you can use. Yeah, because it's depending on its composition and also on the climate, on the humidity, dryness. This is a map of Crater also about all the Earth architectures that you can find in the world, and also with the World Heritage Sites. So we can see that there's quite a lot of Earth architecture. I think there is 1/3 of the inhabitants in the world living in Earth architectures. And this is the map of France. So we can also see that we have a huge heritage in earth construction that mostly people don't know. And we have many different techniques: wattle and daub, round earth, cob, adobe. I will talk more later about adobe. And here I am here in Bordeaux, and Martin is here in Paris. And what really interested me also during these studies was all the sensitive sides that you can develop also for a project. But even before a project, to like when you are analyzing the Earth, how you can rely to your senses to understand it, to build with it, to create also spaces that have a certain ambience. And I had the chance also to collaborate with Anna Heringer, which is here, and her work is really amazing because she's really shaping the projects directly in the Earth model. So it was really fascinating to work with her. And now this is Martin's experiences.
We have a common thing, Alize and I. It's that we did a lot of things outside of school during our studies because the regular curricula was not enough or didn't meet our expectation. So of course we wanted to do something more like a hands-on. So for instance, on the top left, it's actually where we met a few years ago. We did this kind of pavilion, and so the top floor is of course in wood, but the bottom floor is part compressed earth brick and load-bearing straw bale, and there is a part of wattle and daub, light earth, and a lot of earth plaster also. It was kind of my first experience of earth construction, actually. And also there are kind of architecture festival. You can see one at the bottom left, the picture, kind of a city of straw bales this year. Each year the theme is different, and in 2019 it was straw. So we built for a few days, like 4 days, we built and live in a city made of 4,000 straw bale, and 300 to 400 people live there. It was kind of really amazing, and I was part of an organizing team. I had like 40 students under me to kind of guide them and show them how to build with straw bale. It was really amazing, but it's really great. And on the right side, it's more like kind of an experiment with the Parisian network for straw bale construction, and we just at some point tried different techniques and way to put on kind of an external insulation of straw bale with different dimension of bale and different way of fixing it and putting it on a wall with kind of with suspender, with screw, with a lot of things, and just to see what we can do and how we can do it and everything. So my point is really that we need to do, you need to do to work outside also of school and kind of get together and join already existing network or create one and search and discover. It's really important. And this other project is it's a bit different. It's more political. It's a way to show that there is not only kind of the eco construction, but there is also a different kind of problem in our city that we are building everywhere on natural grounds. There, it's in the northeast of Paris. There is a century-year-old garden of kind of 40,000 square meters. So it's kind of huge, and it's been there for a century. And there are a lot of families that are gardening there and for their food. And there is a project right now to build a swimming pool there for the Olympic game. So with a lot of people, we kind of built a barricade against the bulldozer. I'm sorry to say that the bulldozer win at the end, but we tried, and we built this kind of barricade made of straw bale. We just put like 400 of them and made a 40 meters long, 2.5 meter high wall to kind of protect the barricade, the garden. So it's also a way, I think, to act and to participate to the fight for frugality. It's not just eco-construction, but also kind of a political stand and statement. I think. Can you go on the last slide, please, Alizé? I don't know. Yeah.
Yes.
And just to see that I'm not just in a there is not just straw for me, but wood is nice too. So there is another project, a kind of it was a participatory construction for a small pavilion in a school, and the idea was that they built a new school and they had to cut trees, but they put them away and kept them, and so we can later on kind of carve the trees to make the beam and post, and we kind of square them with just axes and no electrical tools, but just like in the really old way or traditional way, with axe and everything. And I will show you a picture of the building later on completed, but it's also really nice to do things with your hand and to, as Alizé was saying, that the kind of the body way of handling the tools and handling the natural matters. It's really yeah, great. Simply, I think. And it's me after that, or it's you? I don't remember. It's me. Okay. Just Mathieu was talking about it. So during my studies and with some friend, we created this magazine, online magazine, free access, but it's still only in French. I'm sorry, but maybe someday will be in English also, and in German, I don't know how many, everything. But I think it's the same way, because our point, I think, it's to also kind of connect theory and practice and to share information, because there is a lot of things happening. A lot of people are trying and experimenting stuff, but they are kind of doing it alone in their corner. So it's nice to kind of communicate and share things. It's one of the main interests of the frugality movement, but also like a straw network, the Earth network and everything. And to kind of reunite all of the networks that are already existing in France, we decided to create a review, kind of a place for everybody to think and together and to share information. Yeah. So the title is Topophile, the friend of place. Topos, topography, it's a place, and philia is the friendship or the love for, we can say. Yeah, thank you, Alize. And there, I didn't find a map of the straw building all around the world, so I just put some picture of the first building in straw, just to see that it's not. Yes, of course, it's kind of new because the bale, the kind of the machines that compress the straw to make bale is new. It's from the late 1800, so like 1860, 70, we don't exactly know. But in a country, the Sand Hills County in Nebraska, so in the middle of the United States, there was a land called the prairie, with no wood, with no stone, but just grass and hills only. And people came here and they had to live somewhere to put a roof over their head. And there was grass everywhere. And they had, because they were farmers, they had a boiler. So they said, maybe, can we just compress the hay, the weed, and make like big bricks of hay? And they did it, and they put it together, and they erected walls, and they put a roof on it, and then we were able to build with straw. Just straw. It's kind of amazing. So you have a boiler on the top left, and then you have tree construction, a house on the top right, a church on the bottom right, and a kind of it's a garage for you have a oil pump at the front and some 2 or 3 cars. It's at the beginning of the 20th century. So it's really kind of amazing. And also the church that you have on the bottom right is still standing today. And it's just straw and earth plaster on it. And in France, we have a house that is a century old, actually. It's in Montargis, so it's a kind of it's a small city at I don't know, 150 kilometers south of Paris, who was made in straw after the First World War, because it was economic. There was straw and wood everywhere, and especially a small section of wood, because you don't need a big one on the cis wood frame structure, which is very light. And also it was very comfortable because it was fresh in the summer without any mechanical cooling system, and warm in the winter without big fireplace or anything. And it's still standing. The picture you see in colors, I took it last year, so it's there. There is no crack, no everything. I went on to the roof, and the straw is still there. I touched them. It's there. Didn't move and everything. So it's really, straw bed is really lasting. You don't have to worry about it going away with the wind. I think it was it for me. Yeah.
And so then I'm going to present 3 projects I'm working on in Dauphin Architecture. So it's a firm based in Bordeaux, in southwest of France. So they set it up the office in 2010. With they started the project at this moment, and there are 5 associates who set it up, the office. And so the main directions are so taking inspiration from a place from the traditions, and also having all this imaginary and dreams going around the architecture process with all the sensitive sides also. And then this sustainability side with the materials used, the way to build, sometimes with participative constructions, and sometimes also working with artists. So I'm going to present 3 projects. So first, participative project of an oven that is in front of this building. And then I will present 2 other projects, town hall in Dordogne in the same region, and a building site near Bordeaux. So this project is a social cultural center. It was made by the office, I think, 4 years ago, with some walls in rammed earth. So it's layers of earth that are compacted and casted. And then all the other walls are insulated with straw. And you have also some earth plaster or lime plaster on top of it, and also cladding on the outside, wood cladding. And the inside is very warm. It is for students who actually live in here, who sleep in here, and who are studying just in the building in front of it. And they are studying cooking. So we thought it was a good idea to finish the building with the construction of an oven in front of it to create a kind of totem of the project. And so we also studied the orientation of the oven with the wind studies. And so the wind is going like this. And so it helps with a fire inside of the oven. So the basement of the oven is made of adobes. It's molded bricks of earth. The earth is coming just from the site near the building. And this is the mold. And then the basement was calculated with the centimeters of joints in between. So here we have some wood storage under, and then so all of this is the basement in adobe, so with clay bricks. Then we have a straw clay base, sorry, and then we have some terracotta tiles for the oven bottom, and then the oven is also made in the same technique with straw and clay. So there is just a little bit of clay, just enough for the straw to get assembled and to get rigid when it dries. And then we have the fire bricks arch for the door of the oven, and the carpentry with a shingle roof. So for this project, we have different periods of time. So we made already the participative construction with some people who were interested in doing it. Here are some people from the architectural team. So we did together 1,200 adobes in 4 days. So we had quite a lot of work, and then after, so it's an eco center who is going to take these adobes and make the basement with it, and then they will also give a professional training on how to create the oven with straw and clay. And then it is some carpenters from there who are going to give trainings, but in a school, in a carpentry school, to create the roof. So it was really interesting to meet all these local actors and to try to put them together to realize this project that will be finished, I think, around May or June of this year. So this is another project. It's a town hall in Brantôme. So it's a town here in the southwest of France. It's a construction, and so here is a site, and the aim was to have a perspective on the abbey, because here is a very prestigious abbey. So the town is a bit touristic, and so we wanted also to create a kind of pedestrian path that would go from the abbey to the ancient town hall, and then go to the exploring around the town hall, and because here there's a small bridge, and then here's a monk's garden, and then go back here. And this town was occupied since the Middle Age, even when there was no town, because the monks used to sleep and to live in the caves behind the abbey. So we were really inspired by all this all this context that was really deep and really strong. And we wanted to create an architecture that could respond to this context. So you can see in some parts how the architecture is really nested in the caves. How also in the caves you can see the work of the rocks, the works of craftsmen in the rocks, and also the roof of the abbey that is really prestigious with the carpentry inside. So for the work of the facades, we tried to get really the inspirations from this work of the stones. So the two gables here are with stones, with some lime plaster also on it. We have also some niches for biodiversity, for animals to come, insects to come. And on the other facades, it is this is the plans. So the gables are here, and on the other facades, we are using the grebe technique. So it's a straw bale technique with a double framework in timber, and inside you have a straw base in layers, so you don't stop the layer of the straw bale, and then you don't have thermal bridges, and then you have some mortar on both sides of a straw bale for compression and solidity. But in this project, these walls insulated with straw are not porteurs. They are not
load bearing.
They are not load bearing. So we have another timber structure inside that is load bearing. And then sometimes inside we have some adobe walls for inertia. We're also working with natural ventilation. So this is the work of the facades. We're using the stones also on these facades for the basement and for framing the windows. And then this is a lime plaster, and yeah, in the inside also we have an earth plaster and sometimes also some wooden panels. Yeah. So also it's very interesting, this relation with the clients, so with the mayor and the elected representatives, because at the beginning we thought this project would be more in wood with wooden panels, but then they really disagree with that, so we had to work again the facades with no wooden panels, and then to have this more organic shapes and to have wood more in certain places of the facades. And then we also meet the ABF, which is the architect in charge of historical monuments in the region. And she preferred the wooden panels, the wooden structure. So then we had, I mean, as architects, you always have to get an equilibrium and a balance between all the actors around you, and also to not to lose the spirit of a project. So we founded some more regularity in the facade, but we still kept the main ideas. And there's also, yes, this organic work with a wooden structure outside and also inside. So yes, and then this is a third project. So this is a building site I'm following since the beginning, but I didn't work on the conception or drawing. I arrived really at the beginning of the building. So the idea is to have a ground floor and a first floor very compact with flats of 1 or 2 rooms, bedrooms, sorry. And then on the top you have many houses with one floor or 4 floors. And then here you have a parking lot, and on top of the parking you have a collective platform that is used for the inhabitants to share moments together. So there's actually a budget for this place, and so there are some participative workshops with inhabitants to decide what they want to build there, if they want to build a shelter, if they want to have some common gardens. So it is a place of possibilities. And here the facades with all the different colors. So you can see the quite compact plan on the ground floor with sometimes the flats doing just 1 layer of structure and then sometimes 2 layers here. And then these are the plans of the upper floors. So with 2 flats that have that are triplex, so that have 3 levels. So this was the land at the beginning with grass and vegetation, and we can see all the projects around. So I don't know if I presented it, but it's just near Bordeaux. It's in another town, so it's in an urban area, and it's a new urban area. So you can see many concrete buildings all around, and this building is the last building of the area that is getting built. And it's a really changing project because this one is way more frugal and virtuous. So I'm going to present the evolution of the project from the start. So these were the deep foundations, because the groundwater was very beneath our feet, like maybe 50 centimeters beneath. So yeah, we had to create deep foundations to be sure that the building was standing, because there was also a lot of clay on the ground. So the concrete beams, then the precast slabs. So in these projects, there is concrete in the foundations and in the slabs mainly. So when they poured the slab on site, so you can see all the environment around the concrete environment. Then this was a prototype realized by the carpenters in their workshop. They were prefabricating the walls made of a wooden structure and then insulating with straw and cladding on the outside and wooden joinery with the air ventilation here. Then the glue laminated framework, so the wooden structure. Then the wood flooring. And yeah, it went very fast. The crane was building, I don't know, like maybe the ground floor was finished in 1 or 2 weeks. So it went, all of this went very, very fast. So you can see the crane bringing the walls directly. And this is the protection for the rain. And some walls were also arriving directly with the cladding, because this will be a coating. And a view of the inside with the plumbing installation. And we can see also that there was a lot of water leaks. It was raining in the building, and because it was not protected yet from the water, there was no tiles on the houses. So this is part of a building process. So yeah, now the volumeter of the project with the tiles that were here, and then the balconies and the passageways and the stairs, and a test of cladding that was disapproved by the town hall. So we had to change the whole cladding of the ground floor and second floor, ground and first floor. So the walls were arriving protected, but then to clay plaster it, they had to remove the protection. So this was the ambience inside of a building. It was very funny to see all this, all this straw appearance. But we could then see also all the some issues with the executions of the straw walls. So here you can see red dots, and so everywhere where there was these red dots, there was some problems. So either some holes or some bumps of the walls. So we asked the carpenter to again come back and fill the holes with straw. Also here under the beams, there was no insulations, so there was some thermal bridges. And so he filled the holes, but then it was not compacted enough. So, you have to deal also with all these issues on site and try to not to get in troubles with the craftsmen. Otherwise, I mean, they're not going to do their work also. So then they applied the first coat of clay plaster. So it comes after a preparatory layer. So it's straw that is projected on the clay that is projected on the straw, and that gets inside maybe 3 centimeters inside of the straw bale to create a kind of hook, and then you can put the first coat of clay. This coat is still drying now, so it has been maybe more than 2 months, but they did it. But they did it really at the worst moment, and so there's some mold that appears because December is really not the good period to do the clay plasters. So sometimes you can see also the disadvantages of working in this kind of big scale projects and having all these deadlines to try to respect, but you also have to respect the time of the material, and the clay needs time to dry, needs the good conditions. So you need to work with all that. But now it's drying more and more, and the mold is not dangerous at all. So it's okay. And then the metal framing for the placo inside of the houses, also for the ceilings. So, and also I forgot to say, so the ground floor and first floor is insulated with straw bales, and then the houses are insulated with wood wool. So it's 2 different kinds of insulations. And so we can see here the cladding of the ground floor that they started again. They changed it. And the outside coating with the outside insulation. And with colorful facades.
Thank you, Alizé. I changed a bit what I thought I will be doing, Mathieu, because I was a bit bothered to talk about some of the project of the architecture agency where I work now, because I mainly work on architecture competition for now, until now. So it was a bit strange to show you like synthetic artificial image of things I did. I thought it was a bit not really the best idea, and so I prefer to show you build project from friends, but they are all of them in Paris or in the really near suburbs, because Mathieu told us that he was really interested by urban project. So I choose among them, and it's a project that I went several times during construction. Afterwards, when they were finished, some of them I participated a bit because all of them almost had a part of some open workshop or participatory construction on some days to do the earth coating or something else. So, but they are really great, and I spent a lot of time with the architects, and we did papers on them on Topophil and everything. But I think they are quite great, and all of them are made with straw, because also I'm part of the French network of straw bale construction, and all the architects who did the project also and everything. So some of them we work together on some technique point on straw bale, or kind of progress on the building regulation and everything. So this project is called Farm of Possibilities. It's in Saint-Ouen, north of Paris, in a kind of industrial area, actually. And it's kind of a big project. You can see it's really long. It was made of first, it's so you have a kind of a community garden in front, but also it's kind of the kind of delivery point for agriculture, for agriculture. They came with their vegetables there, and then they are distributed all around the Parisian region. So kind of
Cooperatives.
yeah, cooperative, exactly. Kind of also kind of a logistic hub where all the agriculture came with their stuff, and they did like buckets for everyone, for different family, and also they cook meals, and they distribute meals and everything. And you have also some of offices and a restaurant also, and you have this this garden in front. So maybe we can go to the next slide so I can show you a bit how it's organized. So it's really a building in length building, and you can see it's quite efficient in the way it's conceived and built. You have a large glulam wooden portal frame, and then you have kind of a external wall made of prefabricated wooden frame straw bale wall, which were also pre-coat in the workshop, just for the like the main coating, not the finished part. And you also have like this long facade that we had in the picture before. It's made of reuse windows. Took from a rehabilitation nearby of a big public housing project. They changed all the windows, and they, for their project, took this window from the trash and made something else with it. They kind of made how do we call it, buffer space, so that so it's oriented southwest, so the air is preheated in this kind of distribution hole all along the facade there. And we can, yeah, exactly. Thank you. Can you go to the next one, please? So you see the portal frame on the bottom left part. You have the prefabricated straw wall. You can see a bit of the straw in the weeds, and you see that we can actually put the apply the earth splatter coating in the workshop, at least the first part, so you can, it's a bit easier to dry and you can gain a bit of time, but also you still have to do on site the finishing coating. And actually this part, which was quite important because there were like 500 square meters of earth coating to apply, it was kind of an open workshop. It was put on by a lot of volunteers. It was like, I don't know, hundreds of volunteers every weekend. It was really, really huge, really joyful also. And a lot of students, architecture students, came and put their hand in the mud and everything. I did it a couple of times. It was really great, and a lot of people, and you meet a lot of people also, and you can do stuff with them afterwards and do all the project. And it's really nice because we were all like kind of students or just newly graduated, so you can maybe start a business together or do project together. So it's really nice way to meet people also. I think this kind of social events on the construction site are quite important, especially in this kind of eco-construction way. And then on the next picture, you will see some pictures of the building finished. Yeah, so you have, and we tried stuff. So on the top part, you have kind of a demonstration wall of different kind of coating, all of them with earth, but some kind of not the same amount of straw or fiber inside. Some of them are with cardboard because it's kind of really smooth to apply, and it doesn't crack as much as with fiber. And we try like some carving with forks and glass and everything we could find in the kitchen. We just took it and tried stuff, and it was really fun to do. And then on the bottom part, you see like the gable walls I was talking about, the buffer place, sorry. And then on the left part, you have this drum wall. So I don't know if you know what it is. I think the principle you know it, but
they probably don't know. But
okay, so the principle is that you put you make a kind of a massive wall with earth or stone, but mainly in earth. It's better. It's with compressed earth brick, and so you need a mass with a kind of lot of inertia, and outside you put glasses, windows, and the air will really kind of preheated in this small space between the glass and there's a compressor brick, and before it will go inside the building. So it's kind of a passive way to preheat the incoming air. So it's kind of also a passive way of warming the place up. Anyway. And they did the earth bricks they use were also reclaimed for an architecture festival also. I think Alizé, you participated to this one. So maybe there are some brick you made there in this one also. And the architect, it's Frédéric Denise. I think it's good to say his name because he's really amazing. He's doing now a rehabilitation of kind of a storage unit in the port of Le Havre, which is on the French coast, 200 kilometers west of Paris. And he's making this really amazing place. He's trying a lot of things, and it's kind of an open university and workshop for environmental transition initiatives. And they are on the subject of earth coating. They are reinforcing the earth coating with hair. They are kind of organizing. They are going to I would say hairdresser all around the city, and they kind of claim the hair they cut during the day, and they put it in the earth, and you have so it's really funny. They are trying a lot of things. I think it's really amazing that on this kind of project you can try things, and I think it's what drives those architects, and I think it's what is driving us also. And it's really not the same thing all over again. It's really new at every time, and it's also you do a bit further at every project. So and it's really the same thing for Dauphin architecture. It's every project you take 1, 2, 3 steps further, and it's kind of you have the process of one project, but you also have the process of the architect himself, I think. And the next project is also kind of a farm, but this one is in Paris. Really, you can see the building all around it. It's a bit smaller and a bit more complicated because you can have a railroad just in front. It's not in use anymore, but it's still there, and you have to go under the railroad to access the building. So it was a bit tricky during the construction. And in this, you have 2 buildings. On the one on the left, you have a restaurant on the railroad, and on top of it, you have a greenhouse where they grow stuff. And beyond, above it, you have a mushroom farm also. And on the bâtiment, the building on the right, you have housing, social housing, part for students in horticulture who are living there. I think it's 4 of them, and you have also 16 people who were homeless before, because it's really also it's innovative project in the way it's built with materials and everything, but it's also a really social project both in the construction but also in the finality of the project. So, and for the finality is to provide shelter for previously homeless people, but also to provide them work. They are taking care of the garden in front of them, on the roof also, in the greenhouse and everything, and they are trained. They are getting training to do that. So it's why you also have housing for students, because the students are training in horticulture studies. So there is also kind of a sharing of experience between these two different public, and maybe we can go to the next slide. Maybe it was better before. Yeah, so, right, perfect. So you see also, and they actually chose to build in straw because of its simplicity to put in place, or the way that the fact that you didn't have to have a lot of training to put it in place. So or most of the people who work on the construction site, they are not craftsmen with a lot of experience. They were trained during the workshop, so they kind of made up the structure first, and then they put the straw from the inside, because it was protected from the rain and wind and everything, but it was made like that. And then you have a picture of the kind of a dining table for them. I don't find my word, sorry. But it was to the point of putting this picture there. It's because they kind of create a community inside and during the project, during the construction, but also after. But of course, but it was really important for them to build a community also, so that people came together. And in all of this project, the moment where we share a meal together is really, really important. It's often the start of a project, but it's also the end, and you have it all along the way. It's really important, and yeah, it's great. And then you have a kind of a detail of the construction. So everything, the floor are in wood, and the wall are also in straw, in a wood frame. So it's also quite virtuous in that way. And maybe we have a couple of pictures, and because it's been an hour and a bit more, so I will be a bit faster now. So you can see the garden in the middle. It's in the middle of Paris, but it's, when you go there, it's another world, really. It's quite amazing. So if you are coming to Paris, sometimes you should go there. It's great. So I will go further. Oh, sorry, great. This is another project. It's in the, it's not in Paris, it's in Rosny-sous-Bois. It's a suburb in the east of Paris, really near. And the particularity of this project, it's a school, this one, for 4,000 square meter school. So it's quite huge. It was just delivered last September, so it's brand new. I was there a few days ago. The next picture will be, I think, is our mine. But the main, it's 12 classes, but for children from the age of 3 to 10. And the main particularity of this project, also in this construction, is that the architects and the engineers who work on this project are integrated into the city hall. Like they are public servants. They are not private offices of architects and engineers. They are working for the city to design and build the school of the city. So it's kind of another way of doing stuff, and that allows them to experiment more and to really go deep on every subject. For instance, so the structure is a wood structure. You can see it there, but it's not a glulam or anything, and it's not a private house. It's really a big school, but nevertheless, it's made with solid wood from the region for a large part of it. It's oak, actually, the structure that you can see, and the building is 12 to 15 meter high, so it's quite huge. And you have a bearing of 8 meters from the between post, and so they kind of made a lattice beam to cover the length they need. So they really went really far on the sourcing all the materials, the wood, but also the straw. The straw was grown around Paris in bioagriculture and everything. So it's a lot of things, and all the wall, there are no cladding. It's there is a coating on both sides of the straw. It's lime on the outside and earth and plaster in the inside. So inside the classroom, you have the plaster earth clouting. You can touch it and everything. You just have a kind of a big plinth on the bottom part in wood, but everything else is earth and plaster coating. It's quite rare in France to have this in a public space, a public building. You also have a kind of a recreation area on the roof, and you can see also this kind of a chimney on top of the roof. The roof is made of wood cladding also, because they are also working not just on the materials, but also on the system of the building, and mainly, of course, bioclimatic design, but not they don't take into account only the sun, but also the wind and the pureness of the air inside of the school. And they developed kind of a natural ventilation system. So it's the chimney or the exit of the air, and they have kind of air inlet above the windows, and you have a false ceiling, you can see it, and the incoming air is pre-warmed by the outing air before entering the classroom, actually. So you also have a kind of a passive way of warming the air also, but in different way. It's really they did a great thing there, and they are really leading and guiding everybody because of their unique structure of being like working directly for City Hall. And I think there are a few pictures left, or I don't remember. Yes, so this one is another project I made in this city, because they did like 4 or 5 schools already. And this is the small project they did. I show you a picture before with the axe and everything. So it was a kind of a mud wall, and then this roof structure made of wood from the site, really from the site. The tree were like just in front of it, and I think there is a picture afterwards. We can see the inside, and this was really a training workshop. Everything of this project was completely made by training. The architect was a student, a friend of mine in the architect office in the City Hall. All the builders were also in training, both for the masonry and for the roof structure. So it's also a really great way to learn stuff and everything. And I think there is a last project. Yes, great. This one is a bit different. It's in Paris, and I saw that Charles finished his expose precisely on rehabilitation. So this is kind of experimental rehabilitation. There is not plenty to see. The picture is not amazing, of course, but you can. It's a public housing project. You can see it before and after, of course, on the picture. So it's kind of a gable wall. You just have few small windows. It's bathroom windows. It's really small, and on it, with the straw bale network and few architects and also craftsmen, we try to find a new way to insulate it with straw, and also a new way to put the straw on the wall with less wood, because the usual way it's kind of you made a wood frame like the same carpentry that you made to put your like with shelves and everything, like the same in the library. So the idea was to put less wood, and maybe it will be better on the next picture. There is a kind of a drawing to explain it better. So actually,
No, it's the end.
Comment?
C'est la fin.
C'est la fin? Ah, la dernière, elle y est pas, crotte.
Ah, j'ai oublié.
Attends, limite, sinon je le partage de mon côté.
I think there is a slide missing.
Sorry, there is
sorry.
a technical problem. Non, tu l'as ou de ton côté? Yes, perfect. Great. So you can see on the drawing, in fact, also you have less wood, and actually each bale are suspended to the wall with just like suspenders, you know, that you can put on yourself also. It's kind of the same principle. And so you have kind of a continuous surface. You don't have wood, or just a little around the windows, of course, but you have a continuous surface that you can put a coat on it. It's a bit difficult to put in place because it was made in a kind of open also workshop. So it was a bit long, and it's kind of a new technique. So it's a bit pricey just right now for this first project. And also we didn't, for the insurance purposes and everything, it was a bit complicated, but I think this kind of project now is opening the road to other rehabilitation or external insulation with straw bale. And it's actually kind of a study case to reapplied to change the building regulation on how to use straw bale, and mainly in rehabilitation. So I think also we have this this need to try to experiment and discover new way, and kind of just not to develop our own practice in our own office, but also kind of to improve and move the society in its I don't know in its larger, broader sense. And we are not just working for us, but also for all the profession. So it's really important to network and move together, I think. Yeah. Sorry, at the end I was a bit confused.
Thanks a lot, Marta and Alize, then for this presentation and showing really good technical details and shown a picture of working sites. That was really interesting to see, because most of the time students just get to see the finished project and maybe some plans, but seeing what is really happening during the construction is really good, and sharing your experience before actually really working as architect, but really sharing experience of your own to tell story. That was really good. And I wish our students can do the same as you, participating in workshop, going around and experimenting with material, because this is actually what I have done myself, and this is how to learn architecture, according to me also. So thanks a lot for sharing it, so they see that others are also doing it. So that was really good. Sorry, we won't have time for question because the students have a class that will start soon. So except if there is anyone that has a short, fast question. No, it was a very busy afternoon for all the students, and I'm happy that it is like this, because it's, as you said, it's how you learn, by having experience. So we cannot, during those time, make workshop because of the situation. So unfortunately, this is a way of sharing experience through presentation. So thanks a lot again, Martin and Alizé, for being here and sharing all this experience. And I'm really glad you could come. And I wish you good luck for all those projects going around. And I hope to see you for real one day, because I'm sure we have a lot of things to share.
With pleasure. Thanks for the invite. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry
thank
we
you
didn't
very
have the chance to discuss with all of you and discover and meet and discover what you are doing and what you are trying to do and everything, because it was a bit one-way street there.
Yeah, we will speak about it. Okay. So
Thank
thanks
you very much.
and have a good afternoon.
Thanks.
Now.
Bye.
Thank you.